Hi folks, HR Funk here. My biggest firearms related wow moment of last year came when I reviewed my Canik SFX Rival Dark Side pistol. And I mentioned during the review of this handgun that up until that point I was aware of Canik firearms, but I just never really paid any attention to them. Then I borrowed this handgun from Hot Munitions for a review, and during the course of that review I took it out to the range and put it through its paces, and by the time I was done shooting it that day, I knew it was never going back to Hot Munitions, that it was going to become a permanent part of my collection. And I always enjoy shooting this handgun. It is extremely accurate. It is a fun handgun to shoot, and every time that it has shown up in a video and every time that I have used it otherwise during the course of the last year, I have just enjoyed it more and more. So recently, when Canik came out with a new micro-compact version of their Mete handgun, I wanted to see if I could get my hands on one of those. Unfortunately, they're nowhere to be found at the moment, but it occurred to me that I had never actually reviewed the Mete handgun that Canik has been manufacturing now for some time. So the subject of the video today is going to be a Canik Mete SF, and the only detraction when it comes to the SFX Rival Dark Side is the fact that it's a large handgun. As you'll see when I'm looking at the Mete SF, it is a much more compact handgun intended for daily carry. So let's take a look at the Mete SF. So as usual, when you purchase a Canik handgun, you do not get just the firearm, but it comes with essentially a complete system, beginning with the case, which is a very nice hard case that is lockable, as you see. Inside the case, there are a variety of tools, beginning with the punch that can be used to disassemble the pistol entirely. This is not just a keychain trinket or something like that, and let me make this a little bit bigger, but it is in fact a tool, and inside of here there are various Torx bits and other items for the handgun, and on the end, if I can get this out of here, there is a driver to accept those Torx bits, so you can use this tool for things like installing an optic. There is also cleaning gear over here, and there is a back strap that you can interchange with the one that comes on the handgun. On the opposite side of this cover, there is also your owner's manual and other paperwork that comes with the handgun. Also, you get a holster that goes along with your Canik pistol, a spare magazine, thank you Canik, along with a magazine loader. There are optics plates for different optics, and also, of course, a gun lock. So all of this comes along with your handgun, and the MSRP for this handgun is about $520. So all of this for 520 bucks is pretty good right off the bat for your purchase of a Canik handgun. So moving the box and those other items off to the side for a moment, here is the Canik Mete SF, and I wanted to talk for just a quick moment about the holster that it comes with. This is a pretty good holster. It's constructed of pretty sturdy polymer. It is adjustable, and you can see with the clips on the back, you could either make this an inside the waistband or an outside the waistband. It's set up to begin with as an outside the waistband. And the Mete SF locks into this holster very securely. So you're getting a pretty good holster coming along with your handgun. That's going to save you searching through the internet or the gun shop or wherever for another compatible holster. So I just wanted to talk about that real quick before I get into the pistol itself. And here is the Mete SF itself. And by the way, I was curious about that name Mete. So recently at the NRA annual meeting, I asked some folks from Century Arms where that name came from, and it turns out the Mete line of handguns from Canik is named after a famous general in Turkish history. So I found that to be interesting, and if you don't know, these handguns are manufactured in Turkey. They are imported into the United States by Century Arms. And this one, as you can see, has the flat dark earth polymer frame and the blued slide and barrel. Now, as I said in the opening, the Mete SF is intended a little bit more for daily carry than the full-size Rival Dark Side, and I put these two side by side just so you can see the difference And the Mete is significantly shorter both in overall length and in height than the rival dark side. And the Canik, or I should say the Mete SF, is not a micro compact by any stretch of the imagination. It's actually about the same size as a Glock 19, and I'll go over the overall dimensions in just a moment, but again, I just wanted to place the two handguns side by side so you could get a visual reference as to the difference in size. When it comes to the tail of the tape for the Mete SF, this handgun has an overall length of 7.28 inches, so just over 7¼ inches, a barrel length of 4.19 inches, a height of 5.21 inches, a width at its widest point of 1.41 inches, and the weight unloaded is 28 ounces. The Mete SF is chambered for the 9mm Parabellum cartridge. As you can see, it is a polymer frame striker-fired pistol. It operates on a short recoil locked breech system, and interestingly, Canik categorizes this as a single-action trigger system. So the only thing the trigger does is release the fully cocked striker, which is different than some similar handguns that have some cocking action that takes place when the trigger is pulled, so that helps to contribute to that very fine trigger that the Canik handguns are known for. Starting the top-down look at the Mete SF with the sights, you can see that it employs a 3-dot sighting system. And something I wanted to point out that's difficult to see here, but I noted it, is the fact that the dot on the front sight is slightly larger than those on the rear sight, making it a little bit easier to distinguish. The rear sight also is angled on its front surface, as you see here, to make a little bit easier one-handed slide manipulation, if that should ever become a necessity. And for some reason my camera's not focusing. There we go. The Mete SF is optics ready. And one nice thing about the system on the Mete SF, as opposed to the rival dark side, is the rear sight is not part of the optic plate cover. So when I remove this cover to install an optic, the rear sight stays in place. That would give me, or will give me rather, a co-witness with the 3-dot sights, depending upon, of course, the optic that I use. There are 2 different mounting plates that come with the Mete SF, and also there are certain sights that can be mounted directly to the slide. So depending on which optic you're using, there are a variety of different ways that you can mount that to the Mete SF. Now I know some of you are going to ask me which optics specifically can be mounted to the Mete SF, and rather than try to recite them, I'm just going to hold up this page from the owner's manual, and you can pause the video and see specifically which ones can be mounted on this handgun. Moving on, the slide of the Mete SF has both forward and rear cocking serrations. There is also a loaded chamber indicator that you can see right here that is both visible and tactile. One thing I wanted to point out with the loaded chamber indicator is there is a very tiny sliver of red paint on either side that is supposed to be a visual indicator that there is a loaded chamber, but it is almost invisible. I can just barely see it in good light. However, I can very easily see that the loaded chamber indicator is pushed up, and I can feel it. So it is both visible and tactile, but that red paint doesn't do much to help out. The Mete SF generally follows the design of the Walther P99, and the takedown notches, or takedown tabs maybe I should say here, are a holdover from that design. Disassembly and reassembly of the pistol is very easy, but it does differ somewhat from the P99, and I'll show you how it differs in just a little bit. The Mete SF has low profile, ambidextrous, slide stop, slide release levers that can be manipulated easily from either side. And just as a test, I have some dummy ammo in the magazine, and there's no problem releasing with the left side lever, and no problem releasing with the right side lever. The magazine release on the Mete SF is checkered, as you see there. It is not ambidextrous, but it is reversible. So if you're a lefty and you want to release on this side, you can swap it to make the handgun more accommodating for you. The Mete SF has a large beefy external extractor, so we shouldn't have any problem with extractor breakage with this handgun. The grip frame of the Mete SF has texturing all the way around, and it is not as aggressive as some handguns out there, but it's perfectly functional. Feels like I get a good grip on the handgun. Also, it has an integrated magazine well that you see here. Now, this is removable. By simply removing this screw, you can remove the magazine well if you want and not have that, or you can keep it in place if you like it. One of the things I've noticed is with my hands, if I can get this so you can see it, it seems to lock my hand in there pretty well with my fingers between the magazine well and the undercut of the trigger guard. It just feels like everything is well locked in place. So I'm going to be looking forward to seeing how that feels when I'm out shooting this pistol. We see another feature of the frame right here, which Canik calls its double undercut trigger guard. The first undercut I just mentioned a moment ago. This undercut is for your support hand to try to give you a little higher grip. I'm not sure that really does much other than maybe just give you a reference point as to where your hand is supposed to go. But I did want to point it out. There is texturing on the front of the trigger guard if you happen to want to use that finger forward hold. And also we see the Picatinny rail mount here at the front. Looking very closely at the frame, we can see a textured area here and another one in the same place on the opposite side. And this is a nice reference point for your thumbs forward grip or for your trigger finger anytime that you don't have it inside the trigger guard. Like the pistol it was designed after, the Mete SF has a cocked striker indicator that you see here. When the action is cocked, you can both see and feel that striker at the rear of the pistol. When the action is uncocked, you can't see it, and of course you can't feel it. The SF comes with two 15-round magazines that have witness holes for all 15 shots. And the handgun will also accept the 18-round magazines from the Rival series. So if you want a few more rounds, you can use those as well. Folks, I want to do a quick demonstration on disassembly and reassembly of the Mete SF. And I've gotten away from doing these demonstrations in my videos because depending upon exactly which bot reviews the video at YouTube, a lot of my videos get demonetized when they include this footage. So I want to do it today because this differs a little bit from some other handguns that are similar in design, and I just want to point out the difference in disassembly and reassembly with the Mete SF. Now, for any of the YouTube monitors, bots, automatons, or whoever else might review this video, what I'm about to demonstrate is part of routine maintenance for a handgun. It is covered in the owner's manual for the Mete SF. It is something that is expected to be performed by the end user of these handguns. It is not modification. It is not changing the handgun in any way. It is just something that is done in order to keep a handgun in proper working order. So with that preface, I will go into the proper disassembly and reassembly. And I'm sorry you all had to sit through that. I don't know if it'll make any difference whatsoever, but I thought I would throw it in. In any case, when it comes to disassembly of the Mete SF, the first part is the same as always. Remove the magazine, lock the slide to the rear, check the chamber to make sure that the handgun is unloaded, and at that point you can release the slide. You do have to squeeze the trigger to release the striker. Now on either side, you recall I mentioned the takedown tabs right here in front of the slide stop on the frame. I'm going to pull down on those and pull back on the slide just slightly. You see it's back maybe a 1/16 of an inch or a little bit there, and all I'm doing is taking pressure off the recoil spring as I'm pulling down on those tabs. Now I'm going to slide the slide forward about an inch and then raise it off the rails. You do not keep pushing this and slide it off the front like a lot of handguns, as I said, that are similar in design. Raise the slide straight up. At that point, you can turn the slide over, push forward on the rear of the recoil assembly, and you can take that out, lift up on the barrel, and it comes out. So very, very simple disassembly. Reassembly is in reverse order. I'll put the barrel in muzzle first, replace the recoil spring guide and assembly, and this round portion, the black round portion maybe I should say, goes toward the front. The silver round portion is at the back. Push this forward, which doesn't seem to want to cooperate for some reason. There we go. And it does need to be in this lower groove. Notice there's a gap between this part of the barrel and the recoil spring guide. So you need to make sure it is in that forward and lower area. Now I'm going to replace the slide, and I should probably turn it over this way so you can see it easier. Replace the slide right back where it was when it came off. Again, I'm not going to try to slide it on from the front. I'm going to put it right back there, pull the slide to the rear, release it, and the pistol is now reassembled. The trigger of the Mete SF has a grooved face that you can see here, and it also has the inertial drop safety that we see there as well. And the trigger on the Mete SF has a different feel to it than the rival dark side pistol. I think the break is about the same, but the thing that makes it feel different is really the contour of the trigger. And I'll grab the other pistol quick and I'll show you the difference in the trigger. The trigger on the rival dark side has a flat face, and it is a very straight trigger that just gives it a very nice break when you squeeze it. Man, that feels good. I love the trigger on this pistol, folks. The more rounded trigger on the Mete SF, just like I said, gives it a different feel. It still has a very nice break. I'm going to weigh it momentarily. There is virtually no creep in this trigger, maybe just a tiny amount that I don't think you would ever notice when shooting it. Let me grab my Lyman trigger pull scale and we'll see just where this trigger is breaking. Okay folks, let's see where this single action trigger is breaking on the Mete SF. £3, 14.0 ounces. So it's actually breaking under 4 pounds. Try a couple more to get a 3-pull average. £3, 11.1 ounces. Let's try one more. £3, 11.8 ounces for a 3-pull average of £3, 12.3 ounces. So 3 3/4 pounds is where this single action trigger is breaking. And the last thing I want to check here in the shop is the loaded weight of the Mete SF. So there is the handgun. There is a fully loaded magazine with 15 rounds and 1 round for the chamber. Brings the weight to 34.8 ounces, so just under 35 ounces for this handgun fully loaded. And that's going to do it for the shop review of the Mete SF. Now it's time to head off to the range and see how it shoots. And I got to tell you, I'm hoping for another wow moment. And as you can see, I've arrived here at the range with the Mete SF, and in just a couple of minutes I'm going to kick things off with a slow fire accuracy test from a distance of 15 yards. I'll be shooting from the bench here. The ammunition for today's test is 124 grain full metal jacket, 9mm ammunition provided by House of Pain Munitions. So thanks to all the guys at House of Pain for sponsoring the ammo for this review, and also thanks to the guys at House of Pain for providing the Mete SF itself. This review is possible because of them. So here we go folks, let's see how this pistol performs. And from that distance of 15 yards, I'm hitting a little bit high with the Canik SF. My point of aim was right here in the middle of the bullseye, and I'm hitting about 2 or maybe 2¼ inches high from that distance. So that could just be an issue with the ammunition that I'm using today from Hop Munitions. Might be a little bit different than the ammunition those sights are regulated for. But in any case, I'll watch this as I go and see if this is something I'm going to have to take into consideration as I shoot, or if maybe it's just a little bit of a getting acquainted session between that handgun and me. And on we go, folks. Next is going to be some controlled pairs from a distance of 5 yards. Let's see how the Mete SF does on those. And I hope you can see all those okay. Those are 6 out of 6 shots, all in the heart from that distance of 5 yards. So I don't think I could ask any more out of the Mete SF than that. And now let's try some failure drills from a distance of 7 yards. And there are the results of those failure drills, folks. And again, all those shots stayed on the heart that I fired at the body. And the head shots are nicely centered in the head. And this tendency I was noticing from the bench at 15 yards to hit high does not seem to be showing up here, because I'm not compensating with my aim at all. And these bullets are all going exactly where I'm aiming. Folks, I'm starting to wonder at this point just how long I can keep those body shots on the heart. And we're going to find out, because now I'm going back to 15 yards to fire 5 body shots from that distance, and we'll see how the Mete SF does. And I guess the 15-yard drill answered that question, folks. I had 2 shots that made it off the heart. This one is just barely off, but still all of those shots are staying inside this center square on the target, which is what, maybe 4 inches by 7 inches. I'll have to measure that and find out, but I can't complain at all about this accuracy that I'm getting from that distance of 15 yards with the Mete SF. And last but certainly not least, let's try a few shots from 25 yards, and we'll see how the Mete SF does there. And again, I am not going to complain about that accuracy at all from a distance of 25 yards. My very first shot went a little bit high, which kind of surprises me. It looked good when it broke. Everything else, 3 of those shots from 25 yards are on the heart. 1 of them is over here in the lung. Again, from 25 yards, shooting at that shot tempo, I think that's pretty good. Moment of truth, folks. We've reached that point in the video where we have to find out if the Mete SF is a 7-yard tack driver. Let's see how it goes. Okay, folks, I got a good feeling about this. Let's see how it goes. Yes! Booyah! Baby! On the first shot, the Mete SF by Canik is a 7-yard tack driver. Well, folks, I was hoping for a wow moment when I got to the range, and all I can say at the end of this evaluation is wow. Simply stated, the Canik Mete SF just conducted one of the best performances I've seen in a handgun evaluation since I have been doing handgun evaluations. Probably rivaled only, if you'll pardon the pun, by my Canik SFX rival, Dark Side, which was equally impressive when I brought it out. And I think I have just identified the next handgun that was loaned to me by Hop Munitions that's not going back. This pistol is a shooter. I can't say anything else. I can't really explain the shots hitting high when I was at the bench. Maybe this handgun just doesn't like being shot from the bench. I don't know. It certainly is intended to be a fighting handgun and used in defensive drills. I could not ask for better performance. At any distance, it was fantastic in terms of its accuracy. The trigger feels good. It's comfortable to shoot. The mag well, which I didn't know if I was going to like or not because I typically don't have these on any handguns that I shoot, feels good. It locks my hand in. It sort of helps keep down muzzle flip as I'm firing. Of course, it's a 9mm, so it doesn't have a tremendous amount of muzzle flip, but what there is mitigated by that mag well locking my hand in place. There's really nothing else I can say. This pistol has a limited lifetime warranty from Canik, so if you get one and you ever have a problem with it, they'll take care of it. And all I can say is if you decide to get one, I would wholeheartedly endorse it, but this one's not going to be around anywhere that you're going to be able to pick it up. And that's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you purchase anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 5% off your purchase from Optics Planet. Also remember the new discount code from Hot Munitions. If you go to Hot Munitions, you can use my discount code there, which is HRFUNK10, and that'll save you 10% off your purchase from Hot Munitions. Last but not least is the Target sponsor for the channel. And I was using one of their targets out here again today. That's Targets Online. Go to the Targets Online website, check out their inventory, and see if they have anything that's going to meet your target needs. See you next time, folks. And until then, hopefully with a fine pistol, good shooting. Bye-bye.